Hello everyone! Welcome back to the channel, The Bold and Beautiful Always, and today we've got something really exciting for you. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Let's jump right in. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers reveal that Lee Finnegan may confess a living Luna Nozawa secret to Sheila Sharp. Will Lee come clean at some point and warn Sheila not to tell John Finnegan the truth? In the episode of B&B that aired on July 22nd, Lee and Sheila came to an agreement about Luna. Lee suggested that Sheila was the only one grieving for Luna in a similar way to herself after Sheila expressed surprise at their finding comfort in one another. From Sheila's perspective, it seems like nobody other than Lee cares about Luna's grim fate. Because of this, Sheila is securing this new bond with Lee, which has the potential to develop into a full-blown alliance if Lee's secret is revealed. Despite Lee's claims about Luna being deceased, she's clearly hiding things. That was evident in Lee's cryptic response to Sheila's inquiry regarding any kind of service. Although Lee claimed that it had already been completed and dealt with, her expression revealed a different story. Although Sheila may not yet be aware of all the secrecy, that could change in the future. Since Lee obviously has an alive Luna stashed off-screen somewhere, she may decide she needs an ally. It's sure to be a lot of work caring for Luna as she recovers, so maybe Sheila could pitch in, especially considering her past as a nurse. Part of Lee might also take pity on Sheila since she's mourning this loss so hard. It's possible that Sheila will have a hard time getting out of this funk, so Lee might decide to let her know about Luna's survival. Of course, another option might involve Sheila taking matters into her own hands. Sheila may conduct some investigation if she eventually develops suspicions that Lee is concealing something. Sheila might play detective and follow Lee to her Luna hideout. That could be another path to Lee's full confession along with her warning that Sheila can't tell Finn or anyone else that Luna isn't gone for good. Whatever the case, it makes sense for Sheila to become part of Lee's Luna cover-up, so stay tuned to see whether she'll get updates on some wild news. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers for the week of July 28th to August 1st reveals that Brooke Logan has an engagement ring headed her way. Ridge Forrester will also see some danger while some alarm bells go off for Hope Logan, so here's what B&B fans can expect. That there's been a lot of talk about the upcoming trip to Italy, but it'll finally be time to kick off the special location shoot episodes that have been promised. Ridge, Brooke, Nick Marone and Eric Forrester will all be part of the action in Naples and Capri. Although Brooke would have preferred to have Ridge by her side, Nick will really put in an effort when it comes to romancing her. There'll be plenty of fun scenes as Nick treats Brooke right and promises her a devoted path forward. Nick will even buy an engagement ring for Brooke and plan to propose to her. It'll be interesting to see how Brooke reacts if Nick actually has a chance to get down on one knee. Regardless, Nick will take Brooke out on a boat as promised, but that could lead to some trouble. It looks like there'll be a water accident involving Brooke, so Ridge will catch a glimpse of the danger and dive to the rescue. Between Ridge's jealousy and the life-saving mission ahead, he won't be able to deny his feelings for Brooke any longer. Brooke has been waiting for a reunion with Ridge, but what about Nick and Taylor Hayes? Nick will presumably have to sail off into the sunset alone sooner or later. As for Taylor, she'll face the Ridge heartbreak she hoped she'd never have to face again. Over with Hope, she's bound to struggle with some insecurities following Daphne Rose's return to Los Angeles. Hope might witness some intimate moments between Daphne and Carter Walton, which could exacerbate any doubts and jealousy that arise. Grace Buckingham will then feel trapped as a result of the growing number of suspicions. Between Bridget Forrester and John Finnegan, Grace is going to face more questions and concerns about her strange behavior. All signs point to Grace scamming Liam Spencer into thinking he had a brain tumor and then scamming Bill Spencer into paying $1 million for a fake procedure. Grace can't get away with this, so it should be Finn who ultimately takes the lead and exposes her deception. Will Grace get arrested or perhaps try to flee? The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers for the next 3 weeks, July 21st to August 8th, tease that Taylor Hayes doesn't make it down the altar, Nick Marone is out in the cold, and sleazy Grace Buckingham gets what's coming to her. The week of July 21st to 25th brings improvement. During the week of July 21st to 25th, sickly Liam Spencer feels better by the hour. Grace saved his life by removing his tumor, which no one can believe. It's not far-fetched at all, in fact. Steffi Forrester and Sheila Sharp keep him company in the interim. In fact, Sheila's toes are the focus of an awkward encounter between these three people. Meanwhile, Finn is getting itchy thinking about how Liam's recovery was miraculous, his spidey senses tingling. After some research, Finn could confront Grace and demand she tell the truth. Grace was a naughty girl who tricked everyone into thinking that Liam had a brain tumor and then milked his dad Bill Spencer for a miracle cure. The week of July 28th to August 1st brings comeuppance. Grace, like her ex-husband Reese Buckingham, discovers what it's like to be a felon during the week of July 28th to August 1st. Let's hope University Hospital has scruples and aids in her arrest by Chief Baker. To be honest, though, given Bill's track record, he might sympathize with the troubled woman and place her under house arrest at his mansion. In another location, additional of your favorite characters are attending a FC fashion event in Naples and Capri. This includes Brooke and Captain Nick. Look for the lusty lad to treat Brooke Logan like royalty as they tour Italy. Poor Nick has never met a challenge he didn't like and produces an engagement ring for his queen. Spoiler alert, Nick winds up in the same adrift boat that Taylor does. This is because Ridge Forrester saves Brooke when she is in danger. When Brooke falls into the water, Ridge saves her and all at once his past, present and future merge into a humbling experience in which he realizes he wants to be with Brooke for the rest of his life. Brooke's mishap makes Ridge realize that Brooke is his destiny, and this means Taylor's wedding dream is cancelled like a bad sitcom. The week of August 4th to 8th is a roller coaster ride. The week of August 4th to 8th is not a good one for Taylor since she has to find someone else to align her chakras from now on. Look for Taylor to go scorched earth on Ridge and Brooke, but honestly, what did she expect? This time, we contend that Taylor is entirely to blame for her broken heart because Ridge always chooses Brooke. The bold and the beautiful spoilers hint that Steffi interferes in her parents' lives, so stay tuned for the fireworks. The sun dipped behind the hills of Los Angeles like a watchful eye retreating behind closed lids, casting long, solemn shadows across the city as Dr. Lee Finnegan tightened her grip on the steering wheel, her knuckles white, her heartbeat thudding like a tribal drum deep in her chest, and in the passenger seat of the inconspicuous dark sedan sat the most dangerous woman Lee had ever known, Sheila Carter, hands folded in her lap, quiet for once, though the silence between them buzzed with something thick and unspoken, something wild and volatile and just barely leashed, as Lee drove away from the city proper and into the winding, desolate backroads that led toward a secluded, privately owned rehabilitation estate tucked into the side of the mountains, far from prying eyes, away from the media, away from the Forrester clan, away even from Jack and Finn and everyone else who believed that Luna Nozawa, Lee's niece and Poppy's daughter, was recovering in Tokyo under the watchful eye of a world class neurological team, when in reality she was right here in Los Angeles County, hidden in a facility Lee had purchased under a shell company years ago for research purposes, but which now served as the unlikely sanctuary for the broken girl whose life had been shattered the night of the party, the night of the pill, the night of the truth that no one was allowed to say aloud, the night that Luna unknowingly slept with Zend after being drugged by a tainted mint Poppy had dropped in her purse. A mistake, yes, but a mistake that had snowballed into a tragedy none of them could undo, and Lee had done what she always did in moments of extreme pressure. She took control, made a decision, erased the chaos, and replaced it with order, even if that order came wrapped in secrets, lies, and isolation, because after Luna's collapse and coma, after the brief awakening filled with confusion and tears, Lee had realized that the girl was too vulnerable, too exposed, too susceptible to the judgmental whispers and the fractured love triangle that had formed between Luna, RJ, and Zend, and rather than subject her niece to public shame and emotional disintegration, Lee had packed her up under the guise of a confidential medical transfer and brought her to this place, this silent sanctuary of locked doors and whispered promises, and for months now, she'd been caring for Luna in secret, telling no one, not Jack, not Finn, not even Poppy, who had begged for updates that Lee deflected with calculated vagueness, all while slowly unraveling the mystery of what had been in that mint and what kind of damage had truly been done. But now, standing on the edge of her secret spiraling out of control, Lee had done something she once vowed never to do. She called Sheila Carter and asked for help, not out of trust, but desperation, because Sheila, twisted, dangerous, cunning Sheila, was the only person ruthless enough, resourceful enough, mad enough to keep a secret of this magnitude and defend it with her life. And as the car climbed higher into the mountains, Sheila finally broke the silence, her voice cool and amused. "So let me get this straight, you've been hiding your niece, feeding the Forresters a fairy tale, and now you want me to help you keep it quiet?" And Lee's jaw tightened, her voice sharp as steel. "I want you to understand what's at stake." But Sheila's grin widened, her dark eyes glinting with curiosity and something else. Something dangerously close to admiration, and she leaned back, letting the words roll in her mouth like wine. "Oh, I understand perfectly, you're just like me," she said, and Lee's spine stiffened, her hands tightening further around the wheel. "Don't flatter yourself," she snapped, but Sheila laughed, low and throaty. "It's not flattery, it's fact. You'll do whatever it takes to protect what's yours, and right now that's Luna." And Lee said nothing more as they pulled through the heavy iron gates of the compound, entering the dense forest that cloaked the building like a shroud, until at last the car stopped in front of a sterile, windowless structure whose presence was more bunker than hospital, and Lee led Sheila through biometric scanners, past security doors, and into the low-lit hallway that smelled of antiseptic and lavender, until they reached a private room where Luna lay asleep beneath a crisp white sheet, her face pale but peaceful, her chest rising and falling slowly, her long dark lashes fluttering slightly with dreams Lee hoped were gentle. And as Sheila stepped inside, something uncharacteristic flickered in her expression, softness, almost maternal, before she masked it again with her usual cold pragmatism, turning back to Lee and whispering, "She doesn't look like someone who belongs in the headlines." And Lee moved to Luna's bedside, brushing a strand of hair from the girl's forehead, her voice low, almost breaking. "She doesn't deserve what's waiting for her. If this gets out, the Forresters will crucify her, the press will devour her, and RJ, he won't know how to love her through this." And Sheila crossed her arms, her smile now faded into a frown of consideration. "So you want me to keep the secret, help you protect her, keep the world believing she's overseas?" And Lee nodded, finally whispering, "Please, Sheila, keep this secret. Just this once, do something good." And for a long moment, Sheila said nothing, her eyes drifting between Luna and Lee, and then she slowly nodded, but added, "But I want something in return." And Lee tensed. "Of course you do." But Sheila raised a finger. "No tricks, no games, just one thing. When the time comes, you protect me the way you're protecting her. One favor. That's all." And Lee hesitated, knowing the danger of making deals with devils, but also knowing she had no choice, and so she said, "Fine." And Sheila smirked, sealing the pact silently as she moved closer to Luna, whispering almost to herself, "She's too fragile for this world. Maybe you're right to keep her here." And for the next few hours, the two women, rivals, enemies, now reluctant allies, sat in that room, speaking in low voices about medications, therapy schedules, neurological mapping, and fabricated international medical records, crafting a web of believable lies that would keep Luna hidden, protected, and in recovery until Lee believed she was strong enough to face the world again. And over the weeks that followed, Sheila kept her word, using her network of contacts to intercept suspicious inquiries, even forging updates to send to Poppy, while Lee worked tirelessly on Luna's treatment, pushing the limits of experimental therapy and regenerative cognitive science to bring her niece fully back from the fog that still lingered in her mind, until one day Luna opened her eyes, truly opened them, and whispered, "Where am I?" And as Lee rushed to her side, her heart hammering, she whispered, "You're safe, sweetheart. You're safe." But inside, she knew the real test was only beginning, because Luna's memories would eventually return, and when they did, the truth about the pill, the party, the betrayal, and the two men who loved her would come crashing back with them. And when that happened, not even the mountains, the locked doors, or Sheila's protection would be enough to keep the world from finding out what Lee had done. As the coastal fog crept into Los Angeles and the golden sunlight slowly faded behind the Forrester mansion's grand silhouette, a haunting silence settled over the city that seemed to mirror the heaviness in Lee Finnegan's heart, her fingers trembling slightly as she clutched a worn photograph of Luna Nozawa, the young woman she had once hoped to mold into perfection, a shining legacy for the Finnegan name. but whose disappearance under mysterious circumstances had left a trail of heartbreak, guilt, and a dark secret that Lee could no longer contain. And as she sat across from Sheila Sharp in the private lounge of Il Giardino, her mind tormented by the duality of her emotions, she found herself drawn to the woman she once considered her sworn enemy, a woman capable of violence and deception, yes, but also a woman who, like her, understood the excruciating pain of a mother's desperation, a woman who had grieved for Luna in a way that no one else had, not even Finn, whose sorrow had been tinged with anger at the woman he thought responsible for Luna's fate. But Sheila, raw, exposed, unfiltered, had clung to Luna's memory like a drowning woman to driftwood, and it was that grief that cracked the walls of Lee's silence, pushing her closer to the edge of revelation, closer to telling the one truth she had sworn to take to her grave. Luna Nozawa was alive, hidden, sheltered in a private care facility on the outskirts of town, sustained by state-of-the-art equipment and in around the clock medical team funded quietly through offshore accounts, and though her body lay dormant, her eyes sometimes fluttered, her fingers twitched, her brain showed sparks of cognition that gave Lee hope, a hope she dared not share with anyone, least of all Finn, who would rush to Luna's side and demand the truth, or Poppy, whose absence and neglect had fueled Lee's resolve to protect Luna at all costs from the woman who had once abandoned her. And as Sheila studied her with narrowed eyes and folded arms, she asked once again, "Are you sure she's gone?" To which Lee gave her the same response she'd rehearsed for weeks, "It's been handled." But this time her voice cracked, her composure fractured, and a single tear slid down her cheek, betraying the lie, prompting Sheila to lean in, suspicion igniting behind her green eyes like a spark to gasoline. And Lee, caught in the throes of her own emotional unraveling, whispered just loud enough for Sheila to hear, "She's not dead," a phrase that sent a shockwave through the air between them, silencing the clink of silverware, muffling the laughter from nearby tables, and drawing Sheila into a stunned stillness as she processed what she just heard, her heart leaping with a volatile mix of joy, disbelief, and a sudden, overwhelming need to protect the fragile truth Lee had just entrusted to her. And in that moment, an unlikely alliance was born, two mothers bound by grief, guilt, and a secret that could shatter their already tenuous place in their children's lives. And as Lee laid out the entire saga, from Luna's collapse in the lab at Forrester Creations after the experimental herbal supplement took a turn for the worse, to the rushed extraction of her body under the cover of night and the covert medical procedures conducted in a private clinic far from the public eye, she revealed the intricacies of the deception she'd spun, from false death certificates to staged cremation records and even a fabricated burial site with a granite headstone inscribed with dates that bore no real meaning, all to keep Luna safe, isolated, and away from the toxic influence of her mother Poppy, whom Lee blamed for Luna's vulnerability and ultimate breakdown. And as Sheila listened, her initial horror gave way to understanding, then admiration, for the calculated lengths Lee had gone to preserve her vision of control. But even she had to admit the weight of the secret was growing unbearable, and so Sheila offered a proposition: let her help, let her be part of Luna's care, let her share the burden, not for leverage, not for manipulation, but because she, too, had come to love Luna in her own strange, maternal way. And though Lee hesitated, she eventually agreed, sealing the pact with a solemn warning: "If Finn finds out before she's ready to wake up, it could destroy everything," she said, eyes fierce with conviction, "so we don't tell him." Not yet, and Sheila, for once, agreed without protest. But deep inside, she knew the day would come when Luna would stir, when her voice would return, and when she would call out for her beloved Finn. And when that day came, no amount of secrecy would hold the truth back. And meanwhile, in another part of town, Finn was growing restless, haunted by a nagging intuition that Luna's story was unfinished, plagued by dreams of her calling to him from somewhere cold, somewhere dim, somewhere hidden. And despite Lee's insistence that the grieving process required acceptance, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. And as he confided in Steffi, who had her own suspicions about Lee's behavior, the two began to investigate quietly, unaware that every step they took brought them closer to uncovering the truth. And while they dug through hospital records, questioned staff, and tracked shipments of medical supplies to unlisted facilities, Sheila and Lee doubled down on their cover-up, forging new documents, changing access codes, and even transferring Luna to a second, more secure location when a whistleblower at the clinic grew suspicious. And all the while, Luna's condition gradually improved, her brain scans more active, her breathing more autonomous, her fingers curling slightly when stimulated, and though she remained unconscious, the doctors reported increasing signs of neural regeneration. which filled Lee with renewed hope but also fear, for when Luna woke up, she would remember what happened, or worse, she might not, and the gap in her memory could be exploited by those with agendas, especially if Poppy ever caught wind of her survival. And speaking of Poppy, the woman had recently returned to LA in a haggard, broken state, claiming to want closure but secretly investigating Luna's fate on her own. And after a strange encounter with a nurse at University Hospital who let slip that Lee had recently ordered several specialized neuro-rehab machines, Poppy began to wonder if her sister was hiding something, and her suspicions led her to confront Lee at her home, demanding the truth, but Lee remained stoic, refusing to be drawn into another of Poppy's emotional blackmail schemes. While inside, Sheila hid in the shadows, eavesdropping and preparing for the worst, but Poppy eventually left, convinced she was onto something and determined to follow the breadcrumbs wherever they led. And as the Italy trip began and the rest of the Forrester family became embroiled in their own chaos, Brooke dangling between Nick's proposal and Ridge's rekindled passion after saving her from a watery fall, Taylor spiraling after being left at the altar, and Hope unraveling at the sight of Carter and Daphne's lingering chemistry, the secret of Luna's survival simmered quietly beneath the surface, a ticking time bomb wrapped in love, lies, and maternal instinct. And when Sheila sat alone that night at Luna's bedside, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead, she whispered, "Come back to us, sweetheart. We need you," as Luna's eyelids fluttered faintly and the monitor beeped steadily in the background, signaling the first stirrings of a return that would turn the lives of everyone on Bold and the Beautiful upside down.